Nominate Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Mrs Saville. Are there any further nominations? No? In that case, those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Councillor O'Neill.
Okay, thank you all very much for your support. I'm very much looking forward to embarking on the long road ahead of us with the planning committee. We've got lots of work, very interesting times, and just again thank you for your support and very much looking forward to it. Moving swiftly on then, so we have agenda item 2, the election of vice chairman. Are there any nominations? Councillor Pillsborough.
I propose Councillor Martin.
Thank you.
I'm happy to second that, Mr Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. Has Councillor Martin been proposed and seconded? Are there any further nominations for vice chairman? No, in that case, all those in favour of Councillor Martin? That's unanimous, I believe. Thank you very much. Congratulations. I will start on agenda item 3. So declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest? Councillor Nellams?
Thank you, Chairman. Item 8, P-15035, as an employee of Tresco Estate.
Okay, thank you. It is quite sunny in here, so it's difficult to see. Councillor Grotty.
Thank you, Chairman. Agenda item 9. I'd like to declare an interest and will leave the chamber as I have a family connection to the applicant.
Okay, thank you very much. I can't see any further lights on. If anybody can raise their hand if I'm ignoring them, apologies. Okay, thank you. So moving on to agenda item 4, the minutes. Any comments or questions? Councillor Billsborough?
I propose acceptance of the track record, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Sowell, thank you. All those in favour? That's unanimously approved, thank you very much. Item 5, urgent items.
Yes, Chairman. One that was passed to members today, which is the appointment of members to subcommittees and working parties. I apologise for the delay in this. For reasons I really can't explain, we just didn't get this on the agenda, and I must apologise for this. We're looking at this point in the agenda to appoint key worker panels and specific local need appeal panel. If we could deal with the key worker panels first. There are 3 of these currently, a key worker panel, a key worker appeals panel and a key worker scrutiny panel. The terms of reference are laid out in 2.3 and the previous membership is at 5.1. If you would like to ask the members' thoughts, yep. Chairman.
Councillor Saville.
Yes, Chairman. If people are willing, I mean, it takes up the whole council practically anyway. If anybody is willing to stay exactly where they are, whether it be key worker panel or key worker appeals panel, I will propose it en bloc. But I do realise that Councillor Milton. So I propose them en bloc, Chairman. And then yourself, well, Chair of Planning, Chair of Council, Chairman on the appeals.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So unless anybody expresses a desire not to stand, who's on this? Councillor Daly.
Chairman, I have a question. Are any of these panels, in fact, working parties or not? The key difference being that the public has no right to attend working parties.
The key difference is that this is done in private. This is a panel that's done in private because of the personal nature of the information that is discussed.
So they're working parties?
Essentially.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Well, I'm not sure if this is just a question of semantics or not, Councillor Daly, but I know that these panels have the authority that a working party may well have, but I don't think it's necessarily entirely accurate to refer to it as a working party. If it's not, it's a panel, but I don't know what the difference is either.
The panel chairman would obviously take the exclusion before at the start of the meeting.
which a working party wouldn't.
Which a working party wouldn't.
Okay. Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Okay, so it's been proposed and seconded en bloc. All those in favour? Unanimously approved. Thank you very much.
Finally, Chairman, the specific local need qualification appeal panel, the terms of reference for that are set out in 2.4, and the previous membership is set out in 5.2.
Councillor Saville.
Thank you, Chairman. I will propose that 5.2 as the current membership en bloc.
Second,
Yeah,
Chairman.
thank you. Seconded by Councillor Billsborough. Thank you. And then no further comments or questions. All those in favour? Thank you. That's approved. Which I believe takes us now to part one. Reports requiring a decision. Agenda item 6, the local plan working group. Report the senior officer, planning and development.
Chairman, if I could take this report, you'll note that we're looking for a slight change in emphasis in terms of how we actually progress the local plan. Currently we have a local plan subcommittee which in effect acts as a steering group to actually inform the preparation of the local plan. But to actually assist in the whole process and speed up the process in terms of plan making, what I'm proposing is that we have a working group as opposed to a local plan subcommittee. And that's to introduce a bit more flexibility in terms of how we arrange meetings, how we determine membership, and also to encourage more engagement and enable discussions in relation to some potentially commercially sensitive information or activity. I think the key point is, though, that obviously any recommendations of the working party will obviously be brought back to the planning committee for final decision making. So the working group is very much, if you like, an advisory role and recommending back to the planning committee in terms of how we actually facilitate the local plan. But I actually consider that having a working group rather than a more formal subcommittee would actually be of benefit to the whole local plan process.
Okay, thank you. Councillor.
What I should say as well, you have obviously a clear recommendation in terms of the establishment of the local plan working group, but of course there should be an additional recommendation as well in terms of who should actually be appointed to that particular working party. And I know that the Senior Officer for Democratic and Licensing Services does actually have the attendance of the previous local plan subcommittee.
Yes, Chairman. Previously you have members from each of the off-islands, one member, and 5 other members, which obviously came from both off-islands and St Mary's. Do you want me to run through the names?
Yes, please.
Okay. St Martin's was Councillor Saville, St Agnes was Councillor Peacock, Briar was Councillor Bennett, and Tresco was Councillor Nellens. And the open membership was Councillor Grottick, Councillor Davis, Councillor Martin, Councillor O'Neill, and Councillor McCarthy.
Chairman, Council?
Yes, thank you. I would support this. I'm very happy to say that I recommend it's the same constituent members of the group, but I think it would work better as a working party to get on with it. It would be more efficient, I think, and easier to convene, and probably cheaper to convene as well. So as long as we can achieve the same aims and goals and take the local plan very seriously, as indeed it needs to be, then I will propose this.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Billsborough.
Yes, Chairman, I'm afraid I cannot support the working party principle. For a start, the local plan covers a wide range of interests, and I'm sure that people who it affects would like to hear the arguments for and against each decision the subcommittee or the working party may make. To keep out the public, I do not think is a good idea. It may savour, I know it's not this, it may savour of something to hide. But if you've got nothing to hide, why should we not allow the public and the interested parties who will be affected to be around at the initial discussions instead of waiting until the final recommendation to go to planning? And as for the ease of arranging meetings, you only need 5 working days to arrange a committee meeting, so that one doesn't hold water. So I have grave doubts about this, Chairman, and I would propose that we carry on as a local the plan subcommittee as we have in the past, and it worked. I see no point in going into camera.
Okay, thank you. I just will quickly invite the chairman just to come back.
Yeah, there is no intention at all to hide things from anybody, and it is very important to note that the local plan consultation is open to the entire community, and we can only hope that they will respond in great numbers, because it only works if it feeds on the opinions of our electorate. There is no intention to hide anything from anybody.
I wasn't accusing them. What I was saying was it could be a perception.
I think reasonable people would not take it in that view because, as I said again, it is to build on the input of the community. And what we can do as councillors is to encourage our community to feed in with their opinions. The leaflets are starting to go out about the local plan consultation. The planning officer will soon give the community the dates and workshops will be held. It is very, very important that people feed into this process. All we're trying to do is streamline the process from the council end and make things happen more efficiently.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Daly?
Chairman, I think that what Councillor Bilsma is referring to is that working parties automatically exclude the public, and I would be uneasy about that as well. So we need to be clear about the terms of reference for these working parties, that they do not exclude the public.
Jim, can I just come back to that? Because the working group obviously would exclude the public, as we're actually proposing. But what I would actually say is, and I'll echo what already the Chairman of Council has said, is that the local plan is one of the most consultative documents the Council will ever do, because we have to go through a set of, some fairly established consultation procedures, including actually front-loading the whole local plan process by doing a lot of consultation even before we've even started drafting the local plan, which we're doing at the moment. I think the other important thing for the working group as well is it's very much, a case of rolling your sleeves up and getting involved in some of the nitty-gritty in terms of the local plan work. But of course, all the key recommendations will have to be in public because they'll be reported back to the planning committee, which is obviously the democratic body of the working group. So in my view, there's nothing sinister about this whatsoever. We're not trying to hide any information whatsoever, but it's just making us a bit more fleet of foot and a bit more flexible in terms of how we actually prepare the local plan. And also a working group does give some more flexibility in terms of actually co-opting maybe some key stakeholders or even other members when there's a specific issue that needs to be addressed, which the local plan subcommittee can't do as readily.
Thank you. Councillor Saville?
Well, Chairman, first of all, I'll second the Chairman's proposal that we do, and hers was the first proposal on the table, so I will second that. I see this working group as doing the groundwork for the local plan, and I think something Praise just said is really important. For instance, if we're talking around economy, we should be able to invite, say, somebody from the Island Partnership to come and contribute, or if it's transport, to co-opt people in to give their opinions, not at every meeting, but on specific meetings when it is appropriate. And I think a working party does allow that. Also, a working party can be called, I know 5 days, Councillor Bilsma says isn't long, but it has to be advertised for 5 days and the paperwork has to be done, etc. I think a working party is far more flexible to actually get down to the nitty-gritty, Chairman.
Councillor Grotter.
Thank you, Chairman. I've had a long discussion with Mr Dryden the other morning on this one because I too shared some of Councillor Bilsma's concerns. However, I have come round to thinking that to agree with the proposal that the working party might be a better way of handling items that might contain commercially sensitive information. So I understand that. But the one thing that worries me especially about a working party is that other colleagues who may have a real interest in planning are excluded from working party attendance. Therefore, is there a middle way in which any member could attend any meeting of the working party if they so wished? Mr Dryden seemed to think this might be a way forward. I must say that I know Mr Councillor Bilsborough has an especial interest in that when the local plan subcommittee was being elected, I did actually propose Councillor Bilsborough, but such was the pace of the election that actually somehow his seconding got mislaid and he didn't actually have a chance to sit on it, so I do feel slightly responsible.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Daly.
Chairman, while I hear everything that's been said, I still haven't heard why we have to exclude the public. I feel very uneasy about that, and I would think it would be asking for trouble. There's bound to be allegations of what went on in the working party that we know nothing about. So I'm going to propose an amendment that we have a working party, but that the public are allowed in unless they are specifically excluded by an exclusion motion.
I would second that, Chairman, because I do feel I've not heard any reason why the public should be excluded. I've heard talk about it, but quite the bottom line is I am not convinced, so I support the amendment.
Okay, so I will come back to you, Councillor Bullitt. So just for clarification, Councillor Bullitt, are you leaving your initial proposal on the table as well as seconding Councillor Daly's proposal, or are you just withdrawing your proposal and seconding the third proposal? Yeah, I know that. But we now have two proposals on the table that are both seconded.
Chairman, you don't. You have a proposal or an amendment.
Councillor Gotter?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. How I voted would depend on the constitution of the working party, because I would be very concerned if any member was excluded from any debate of the working party. So if the working party was to be a working party in which every councillor could participate if they so wished, then I would support it. But I couldn't otherwise. So perhaps we could have some clarification on that, please.
Yeah, certainly. Or you could propose that, Councillor Gotter.
I would like to propose that the working party include any member of council should they so wish to attend.
Okay.
Chairman, it does actually say in the report, doesn't it, that other members can be invited to attend at the invitation of the chairman.
Yes, but
anyway.
Yeah, but that's different.
That's different.
You're going to exclude people, I would have thought.
Well, if there's no invitation forthcoming, then that says that a member can't attend. That's very different. Chairman of the Council, I was under the impression that any member of the Council could attend any Council meeting.
I would like to think, colleagues, that we are in a position that if a member has a specific interest, they would have a word with the chairman and get it sorted that way. I cannot believe that we've gone so far beyond the usual modus operandi. Also, as far as I'm aware, when people are elected to committees, it doesn't necessarily include every other member of council on that committee. They can come and observe. It doesn't mean they sit at the table and discuss things. So I really don't see that there's any particular difference in what we're suggesting at the moment, other than the fact it'll be a working group rather than a subcommittee.
Thank you. Councillor Gotter.
Yes, I'm sorry, but we have just lived through a situation where a small number of councillors had responsibility for a particular area and other members were excluded from even sitting in the public gallery. And so I do think that planning is such a pivotal matter that I would just like to be reassured that any member that wished to have not only to attend but to have input into the working party could do so. I agree with Councillor McCarthy that it's mentioned in this paragraph, but it's not particularly strong enough. It's at the invitation of the chair. I know that obviously we're all working together, but I just would like to be sure what I'm actually voting for.
Okay, I just will invite the administration.
Chairman, I don't know if I'm going to clarify things or make it more difficult, but
please don't.
If you elect a subcommittee or a working party made up of named members, only those named members would have a vote at the working party or committee, with subcommittee, whichever you chose.
Yeah. It was the contribution I was more interested in. I think I quite understand that only the original members could have the vote, and I think most of us would be quite comfortable with that. It's just so that we could garner as much input as possible.
Sorry, but Councillor Davis hasn't spoken yet, so I will invite him.
I was wanting to second Councillor Glottick's proposal.
For clarification, Chairman, if I may, if this goes through, does it mean any member can attend the working party?
I think it depends which one you mean by this, Councillor Billsborough. We've got 3 proposals now, or 2 proposals and an amendment.
Do you just feel that any member should be able to attend a working party? You can't have...
Well, that will become obvious when people vote for any one of the 2 proposals and 1 amendment. If anything can ever be clear again on this subject, that is, of course. Is it 2 amendments now?
2 amendments.
Councillor Saville.
Chairman.
I am going to ask us to move on to a vote.
Well, I think we must do, actually.
Yes.
Let's not try and invent the wheel. If a working party is set up, as with any other committee on the council, any member is able to attend. It's in our blue book.
Yeah.
If the chairman of that working party or subcommittee wishes to invite other members to actually speak or join them at the table to discuss the issue, that they certainly can. But as the administration officer has said, they will not be able to vote.
That's not right.
Chairman and Councillor was saying that's...
We have recently, as Councillor Billsborough is quite aware, we've recently had this issue in Council. It isn't actually quite like that. Anyway, without wishing to prolong this one now, what I would like to refute is what Councillor Mrs. Grottick has just alleged about a working party. And I'm sorry, Chairman, I don't want to prolong the debate. But in the workings of any subcommittee or, working group or subcommittee, if it's based on canvassed opinions, as, for example, the recent DPP was, all members of council were asked to contribute their views, which were collated and taken into account. I cannot have a slur left on the council that we are not taking account of members' views. That would be quite untrue. Thank you.
Okay.
Not intended.
Sorry, thank you. I apologise, but I will just have to ask for further clarification for myself now, because I was under the impression that Councillor Savile's comment was accurate, and respectfully, you're saying it's not. I would like to know how, because I was under the impression that those named people have a vote, anybody's welcome to attend and observe, and at the invitation of the chairman of that subcommittee or steering group, anybody can be invited to comment, but they don't have a vote.
That's true for committee meetings. Committees, not for working groups.
But which part of it is not true? Are you saying that a chairman of a working group would not be allowed to invite a member of the council to speak?
A chairman can invite, but people can't just attend without being invited by the chairman for working groups.
Even just observing?
Yeah. We did have to go through this recently.
Is the chairman of the council saying then that a member does not have a right to walk into a working party and sit down?
Yes, that's what the chairman's saying.
I'm afraid we cannot have those members who can go and those members cannot. I'm sorry, Chairman, that is not democratic to say, these can go, but these mustn't go.
Hang on, sir, just for clarification on that point, Councillor Billsborough, if this committee decides that that's the way it wants the authority to operate, then it will be democratic. It is up to members to decide. And if a majority of members decide that's the way they want to operate, then that's democracy.
Chairman, let me just explain, and then I think we will have to move on to a vote. My opinion is based on the information I was given regarding the same issue we discussed about the DPP. And that is all I can base my opinion on.
Okay. First, could you just repeat your recommendation for us, which was seconded, so that we can take a vote on that, please? We're going to do the amendments first. In which order were the amendments? Councillor Mr Mumford?
Surely we take the first proposal, don't we?
Well, that's...
First recommendation by Mrs Saville?
Yeah,
and then the amendments after? No?
The correct procedure is to take the amendments in the order which they were made and then a final vote on the proposal as amended by those amendments.
Oh, right, right.
Excuse me, Chairman, there was only amendments to one proposal, wasn't there? No, the chairman of council made the first proposal, which I seconded, was that we accept this report.
We accept the recommendation.
And we had a series of amendments.
Not to that proposal. Not.
I think you need to ask Councillor Daly to repeat.
Respectfully, Councillor Daly, but simply just saying yes is not going to help us move forward, I don't think. Can you be more specific?
Chairman, my amendment was to the proposal there, and I'd like to see that taken first, as that's the correct procedure.
Okay, can you repeat your amendment then, please, Councillor Daly?
The working party normally will allow members of the public to attend unless there is a specific motion to exclude for certain items.
I second that, Chairman.
Okay, all those in favour of that amendment? Against? Six. Any abstentions? Okay, so that has failed.
I think it was 7, actually. I think it's because I voted too.
I counted you.
Okay.
Am I right in thinking there is a second amendment we have to take before the initial proposal? Administration?
The initial proposal goes forward as the first.
Yeah, as was
Yes.
the recommendation proposed by Chairman of Council in all those. Sorry, Councillor Gossett?
Sorry, Chairman. So can you clarify, my proposal, which was to allow any other colleague councillor to attend any meeting of the working party, which if they so wished, was seconded by the colleague on my right?
Yeah, but as yours was a proposal, it comes after the first proposal.
Thank you. So do we then now take that proposal, do we?
We take the original, the first proposal, which is from Chairman of the Council, and then...
Because we don't even know if there's going to be a working group yet.
I beg your pardon?
We don't even know if there's going to be a working group yet. We haven't taken that vote.
So we now take proposals and not amendments in the order in which they were proposed and seconded. So the first one was from the Chairman of the Council, which is the recommendation in the document before us. All those in favour? Any against?
4.
Any?
No, 5
Hang
now.
on, that's just changed to 5.
5 now.
So what's the score on that vote, Heather? Any abstentions?
No.
So that has been approved.
I have to take it.
Wasn't an amendment.
What was it? What, 5 what?
6-5.
6-5.
But forgive me, I thought we'd established that Councillor Grotti's was a proposal and not an amendment. And therefore, if the first proposal has been approved, there's no need for a second proposal, surely.
No, because
Because if we approve a second proposal, then it becomes an amendment, not a proposal.
So sorry. I can now make a... You're happy if I make a further proposal then? Or is there now no further possibility?
I think as the proposal has been approved by committee, I think that's the end of this agenda item.
Fine. So just to clarify, the only way in which members can attend the working party, other colleagues, will be at the precise invitation of the chair. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Thank you.
So what we're saying is, Chairman, if I turned up at a working party, I would have to get permission of the Chairman.
I believe so, Councillor Billsborough. That's the information that the Chairman of Council believes to be the case. Apparently you were involved in a recent discussion on this subject, so you may well know more than I do, but you're asking me for a definitive answer, which I can't exactly give you right now, but it is my understanding and
Chairman,
the advice of the administration officer.
Sorry, Chairman, I want to get this right. Will a member be able to turn up or not?
Yeah, but you have asked that question and had it answered earlier on in this discussion, Councillor Billsborough.
Chairman, I think we should hear the officer's advice for Councillor Billsborough.
You need now to propose members for it. Do you still wish to have a member for each off-island, Chairman?
Well, that would be my choice, yes, but presumably it's up to members to decide, isn't it, the membership? Councillor Saville.
Chairman, in order to move this on, may I propose to start with the current membership, if anybody wishes to add to that, of the subcommittee, becomes the membership of the working party. Obviously, I don't want to exclude others, but let's start a starting base.
Yeah. Yes, you may, Councillor Saville. Thank you. Chairman of Council?
Yeah, because I'd actually said that before. That was part of my intention, so I will second that, absolutely.
Okay.
Chairman, are we now going to select members of the working party? As I remember it at full council, that we had one member for each off-island and we voted on block. Is that correct?
That's exactly what's just happened, Councillor Billsborough.
Right.
Councillor Saville has just proposed that we nominate the existing membership, and it's been seconded by Chairman of Council.
Only?
No, en bloc.
Wait a minute. You didn't wait for any other nominations, and this happened last time.
Councillor Saville just made a proposal, Councillor Billsborough.
I just said that, Councillor Billsborough. I said, as a starter, I would nominate the people that currently sit on the subcommittee, but that did not exclude any other members.
And that was seconded by the Chairman of the Council. Councillor Grottick.
May I also add a nomination for Councillor Billsborough to sit on this?
Of course you may.
May I second that?
Certainly.
Chairman.
Councillor Nellams?
And in his absence, may I nominate Councillor Dorian Smith?
Certainly.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Chairman of Council. Councillor Peacock.
Could I just ask, are these additional members to this working party, or in place of others?
I believe additional.
Additional, thank you.
Is that your understanding, Councillor Grottick?
That was certainly my suggestion. Yes, no wish to exclude anyone.
No.
This is the point of having a working group, is it can be much more flexible.
So would I be right
is the point.
Would I be right in thinking that we still take the proposal for the existing en bloc, and then we take a vote on the additional members? Is that the most logical way to move this forward?
No, Chairman.
No, apparently not, according to Councillor Billsborough.
I'm sorry. If you take the initial ones en bloc and say, right, they're in, and then you add to it,
yeah.
It is not giving a fair crack of the whip to those who were added to it.
Why not? How is it possibly not?
Well, as I was going to say, Chairman, I'm sorry if I've not made it sound clear.
But if I take the additional members, respectfully, if I take the additional members at the same time as the existing members en bloc, any member who doesn't necessarily want the additional members can't get the ball in motion to approve the existing membership to begin with, which was the point of Councillor Saville's proposal.
No, they've been nominated, Chairman, at this stage, aren't they? Just nominated.
Yeah, it's been proposed and seconded that we accept the existing membership. I can take a vote on that, and then we've got a second proposal that's been seconded for an additional nomination, which we can take a vote on.
Maybe
Councillor
I can
Daly.
help. Is there a limit to the number of people on this working party?
No.
No.
Okay, but in that case, I'm going to drive this one home, and that's what we are going to do.
I'm sorry, Chairman, to confuse it. I thought it was limited to a number of people.
No problem. Thanks very much, Councillor Billsborough. So, all those in favour of Councillor Saville's proposal, seconded by Chairman of the Council, to approve the existing nomination en bloc?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
I believe that's unanimous.
That's unanimous.
Thank you very much. Now, for the second proposal, seconded for the additional nomination, or the addition of Councillor Billsborough to that working party. All those in favour?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Councillor Saville? 5. No. That's unanimous, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. That's been approved as well. Oh, and now, all those in favour of the addition of Councillor Dorian Smith?
That too is unanimous, Chairman.
Thank you. Any further comments from the Administrations Officer, or are you happy with that outcome? Thank you. Seamless. Taking us swiftly on to agenda item 6. The local plan working group. Oh, no. Deja vu, I do not want to relive that again. Agenda item 7. Key worker and specific local need review.
Thank you, Chair. You see from the report, we're proposing that we amend some of the terminology for assessing specific local need and key worker, the criteria, because it's becoming increasingly apparent that the criteria for assessing applications for key workers and specific local need applicants are difficult to objectively and consistently assess. So as a result, officers have reviewed the incorporation of additional guidance to clarify what is meant by the term inadequate. However, as this still allows for a degree of interpretation, it has been concluded that the term inadequate in both the criteria is replaced with the word unsuitable. And it's considered that this would allow a greater degree of movement in the housing market and allow some people to downsize if necessary, and thus free up properties that are now too large or unsuitable for their needs.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Chairman and Council?
Yes, thank you. I would endorse these recommendations because we have struggled recently when we've gone through many of the applications because of the tight wording, which has sometimes gone in defiance of common sense. We need to be flexible in order to meet the needs of our community. And I really believe that the deletion of these words, it does not mean that we will not apply strict criteria. We have to apply criteria because of the paucity of housing stock, but we have to make it so that we can house people and we can allow some flexibility. For example, people who are in properties that are too big for their family's needs must be allowed to downsize. The present wording doesn't allow that. So I would recommend these.
I would second the Vice Chairman's recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Molson.
I've read it and I understand exactly what the Chairman of Council has said. My only little worry about this is that in terms of visibility, are we going from fog to poor visibility rather than clarifying it? It still will leave this very much open to interpretation, I'm afraid. And I have no answer, I have no magic bullet for it. However, the various interpretations can be then become subjective rather than objective. And I'm not saying that I've got any answer whatsoever.
You're completely right, Councillor Molson. This is a small part of a much bigger picture, but this is, we feel, having discussed it, just a step in the right direction.
Exactly what you're saying. However, I don't think it's going to be the cure-all.
No, not at all. It's just a very small step, but hopefully in the right direction. Councillor Saville?
Yes, Chairman, we've been discussing these words for since 2005 and before. But I have trouble with the recommendations, because it actually says we are deleting the following definitions. It doesn't actually say anything about inserting any other words. That's my problem. It just says we're getting rid of them.
Yeah, well, that was felt in discussion to be the best way forward.
So we're not.
It was far too subjective.
Yeah, but are we not going to have unable to find accommodation suitable for their household?
Well, this is what I was hoping somebody was going to suggest.
Well, because we're just the recommendation. I mean, if it's a case of just swapping, inadequate or for unsuitable and inappropriate, that is fine. But we do still have to have definitions.
Yeah, it was my understanding in the initial conversations before we were presented with the report that what was to be deleted was simply the statement "must be unsuitably housed," because that is far too subjective.
But that's not what this says.
No, I understand that, Councillor Saville, which is why it would be spectacular, in my opinion, if somebody was to propose an amendment to the recommendation.
Well, that's right, but the recommendation has already been proposed and seconded.
Chairman, can I just...
Doesn't prevent anybody...
Chairman, shall I just actually explain in terms of that recommendation? The recommendation is actually keeping our definitions of key worker and also specific local need, which aren't set out in the report. Perhaps it would have been helpful if the whole of the definitions were actually spelled out in the report.
They're in the appendix.
What we're simply doing is taking out the reference to unsuitable accommodation or inadequately housed, which is a kind of terminology that we've actually been trying to grasp to get to grips with.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The issue is, because of the housing market on the Isles of Scilly is so very different to the mainland, particularly because of
I think you're missing Councillor Salmon's
point. I think you're missing the point. Actually, if you read the recommendation, it says that members agree to delete the following definitions relating to specific local need and key workers. It doesn't say anything about specific words. That reads as the whole definition is being deleted.
Chairman Council?
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And my proposal was based on my understanding of our conversation. I do agree with you, and I think that we need to get
the recommendation correct.
Yeah. On that
and
basis,
we cannot delete the whole recommendation. Otherwise, between this moment and the confirmation of the new local plan, we would not have any criteria, and it would be open field to anybody.
Could I suggest that this matter is dealt with by the local plan subcommittee, rather than try and sort of, repeat what...
Do you mean the local plan working group?
Working party, apologies, yes. Yeah, even I got that wrong, yeah. But I mean, otherwise we're going to repeat the sort of circus that we had on the last item, I think, if we're not careful. I think that...
Yeah, it's very
I'm not clear exactly what I agree with Councillor Salvo. It isn't clear, and I do think it would be better if we had a...
on that basis, I will withdraw my proposal and ask that we put it to the working group to sort it out.
I'll second that, Chair. We can't go through it tonight. In any case, if you say a person, a key worker, needs housing, it depends if there's a house available.
No.
The initial intention, which hasn't come through in the report, was the removal of the sentence in unsuitably / inadequately housed, because that has proven to be far too subjective. Yeah. One person considers themselves to be unsuitably or inadequately housed, but another person doesn't. Who's right, who's wrong? Yes. So it was decided that the removal of that, which was what was requested to be in the recommendation and the report, but clearly isn't.
No, I think it's suffered from copying and pasting.
Chairman, can I just...
So, the proposal's been withdrawn. Councillor McCarthy's proposed that it be taken to the...
No, I didn't.
Well, no, I think Councillor McCarthy proposed that it be taken to the working party. No. I need clarification on who's proposed that it goes to the working party. I was under the impression that it was Councillor McCarthy. He's saying yes. Chairman of the Council saying no.
Well, 1 second of what?
Yeah, brilliant. All those in favour of it going to the working party? Councillor Gottick, sorry.
Sorry, I just wondered if it would be more appropriate for it to go to the key worker panel, who have had, with the guidance of Mr Dryden, quite a lot of discussions around this field of late.
I think as it applies to specific local need and not just key worker, I would have thought the local plan would be a more encompassing...
I take your point.
Possibly?
Yes.
Probably? OK, so all those in favour of it going to the working party? Yes, it has. That's unanimously approved. Thank you very much. What a I'm going to stab him. No, he proposed it. He did. Agenda item 8, planning applications 15035. Carmen Tresco.
Thank you, Chair. We have an application for a storage. Sorry. Yep. We have an application for a storage shed at Carnear Quay on Tresco. And 2008 members may recall approving a key improvements at Carnear Quay. This application at the time included 2 larger storage shed structures which were never constructed. Tresco Estate has applied for consent to construct a smaller single storage shed on land slightly further west than that originally approved, and as such a new application is required. Whilst officers sought amendments to the proposed position of the shed on the basis of concerns over prominence, Tresco Estate has confirmed that due to the importance and management of Carnear Quay, its position is optimum. In relation to the size, they have confirmed that it's only large enough to house a forklift truck, tools and implements essential to maintain safe operation of the quay. In relation to its position, they have stated that moving it any closer to the quay would create an obstruction, and any further down the slope would make it vulnerable to being washed away. On this basis, the application has not been amended. Given the important landscape designations at this part of Tresco, Natural England has been consulted and subject to conditions to seek biodiversity enhancements, which is not in the report, but it is recommended. Natural England have raised no objections to the siting of the timber storage shed. Given the small-scale nature, use of simple design natural materials, and the fact that it will house equipment at this site currently stored in the open, it would not result in significant harm to the visual appearance of the wider landscape, and officers have therefore recommended that this application is recommended for approval, subject to an additional condition to require the submission of additional biodiversity enhancements, such as the installation of a bat box and bird nesting things.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Daly.
Propose we approve.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Billsborough. Councillor Saville.
Yes, Chairman. I would support this application. My only question is really, does it need a condition about detritus gathering outside the shed, rather than it all being kept in the shed? I know from experience, Chairman, and one doesn't have to walk very far around these islands to find that, sheds have been actually built to tidy things up, but it actually,
My shed, it runneth over.
So are you suggesting an additional condition to require no outside storage be permitted?
I don't know what Mr Dryden is thinking, if he agrees or disagrees.
Yeah, Chairman, this is actually quite a typical condition that we have put on other instances, particularly where there could be environmental harm.
Yes.
And the whole purpose of these buildings is actually to contain storage, so it's not spilling out visually in the open. So I would actually concur with Councillor Saville's suggestion.
Councillor Grottick.
Thank you, Chair. Do we actually need shall not be painted or stained? It's in a very exposed position. It seems to me a little bit unkind not to allow a staining if it was going to be more practical. But obviously I bow to your
That was
judgment.
just so to allow it to naturally weather down, so it was less prominent. So if you stain it, it becomes sharper for longer.
Enough.
Councillor Daly, would you be prepared to take on Councillor Saville's comments into your recommendation? Yeah. And Councillor Billsborough, you'd be happy to second that proposal with the additional comments from Councillor Saville? Thank you. Any further comments or questions on this? All those in favour? It's unanimously approved. Thank you. No. Sorry, I apologise. It wasn't unanimous. Chairman of the Council didn't vote. Any against? Any abstentions? Agenda item 9, P15021.
Thank you, Chair. This is an application for the change of use of an agricultural field to a boat storage area. No physical alterations are proposed, and as such it is recommended that the use of the field for the storage of boats is acceptable, should be approved. It is recommended that the applicant submit details of boundary screening along the south and west boundaries to ensure the site is not left open. It is also recommended that the use is restricted to boat storage yard only to ensure that other possible storage uses that could take place under permitted development rights do not take place. Such storage could have a detrimental impact on the wider landscape, which could be harmful to important landscape designations that cover this site.
Chairman of Council?
Yeah, I'm happy to propose this. with the grounds just outlined by the planning officer that this is a boat yard. I'll propose it.
Councillor Billsborough.
I will second that, Chairman. Let's hope it makes that place tidier than it is now.
Yeah. Any further comments or questions? All those in favour? That is unanimously approved. Thank you, Councillor McCarthy. Item 10, P15032.
Thank you, Chair. This is an application for a single-storey side extension, which is identical to an extension approved in 2012. That permission was not implemented and it actually expires this week. And as no material start has been made to implement this consent, the applicant has reapplied. It is noted that there have been no changes in the planning policy framework between approving the scheme in 2012 and now, and as such it is recommended the application is acceptable and should be approved.
Comments or questions? Councillor Saville.
Yes, Chairman, I'm willing to propose this, but I do have one query, and again it's a possibility of adding another condition. When it was proved previously, there was a condition that said it cannot be disposed of as an independent building. In fact, it's referred to in your report in 3.1, but that is not actually in the conditions that we're putting on this planning approval. So I would like to see another condition, again, added on this one, that this unit of accommodation must not be sold separately to
the continuance of the original condition.
Yes, but it's not, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, Lisa's looking puzzled.
I've just given back. I don't... The reason it's not shown as being included is I thought it was included in the original 2010 permission. They couldn't implement that 2010 permission because there was a big granite boulder in the way. But I was under the impression that it wasn't included in the 2012 permission. I may be wrong.
Either way, we can include it on the 2015.
No, that's the reason why it's not included in this one. But
I think it should be, Chairman,
okay.
And therefore I will add it as I will propose that it is added as another condition.
Chairman of Council?
Yeah, I will second that with the addition of the condition because I think it's very important.
With the addition of the condition. Councillor Molson?
Just for clarification, one of the comments received makes a comment that the floor area is different from the original plan.
It does. But
is that inaccurate?
The application as submitted, the agent who put together the documentation made a mistake. He's used the wording from the 2012 permission because at that time the extension was 50% bigger than the 2010 permission.
Right.
So he's made it more confusing than it needs to be because this application is identical in size, in appearance to that approved in 2012.
Right.
The wording he's used was taken from...
Okay, I'm happy so long as it is clarified that it's identical, that's all. Yeah.
Councillor Daly.
Chair, I'd just like to speak in support of the resolution because the original crow's nest, as it was called, the planning officer won't know this, but it was a wooden shed on top of the boulder. And so we don't want to see that reappear.
Okay. And on that note, it's been proposed and seconded with the addition of the condition. All those in favour? And that's unanimously approved. Thank you. Item 11, P15030.
Thank you, Chair. This is an application for a new 3-bedroom dwelling, detached dwelling on land associated with Westwood Farm, which is required for the purposes of staff accommodation for running the local shop and post office. Officers consider that the applicants have demonstrated sufficiently the need for a dwelling and together with the design and siting and the use of a Section 106 agreement to control occupancy, it is recommended that a new dwelling in this case is in accordance with both local and national policy and it is recommended for approval.
Thank you. Chairman of Council.
Yeah, I'd like to propose this. I think we should do everything we can to make our off-island communities viable and sustainable. I am just delighted that families want to continue scratching what must be a very hard living on the off-islands, and if we can give them in any way approval for decent accommodation, then I think we should do.
Thank you. Councillor Peacock.
I'd like to second it because I think they really do deserve to have a home near the shop. It will make economic sense.
Thank you. Councillor Grottick?
Totally in support, but can I ask a quick question? Why are we actually recommending conditional approval? Is it because we haven't got the full details?
Because it's subject to a section 106 that they will have to enter into. So that, subject to that being signed.
I'd like to totally support what my colleagues have said about encouraging this kind of development.
Okay. No further comments or questions. That's been proposed and seconded for approval. All those in favour? Yet again, and that unanimously approved. Thank you. Takes us to agenda item 12, P15031.
Thank you, Chair. This is an application for 2 timber holiday let chalets, and members may have picked up on a couple of drafting errors in this report, most notably numbering of conditions and paragraphs 3.1 and 5.3. Unfortunately, when this report was complete, changes were not saved and the draft version went out, so I can only apologise for that. And I would just like to let you know what those sentences should have said. So paragraph 3.1 should read, "This has been completed and submitted to the Environment Agency," that's the foul drainage assessment. "Any response will be reported to members as an addendum report." The addendum report has been circulated, and as you'll note, the Environment Agency do not object to the proposed foul drainage, subject to an advisory informative. Paragraph 3 should read, "The Environment Agency's comments on the proposed means of foul drainage will be reported to members as an addendum report." Given that Westwood Farm does not have any self-contained holiday chalets to support and enable farm diversification, it is considered that the proposal is acceptable and in accordance with Policy 4 of the local plan. As you'll note from the officer's report, the siting and design are such that they will have no significant visual impact on the wider landscape. They are closely related to Westwood Farm, with access from Barnaby Lane and sufficiently separate from neighbouring properties, that the overall proposal is acceptable and recommended for approval.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Billsbury.
I would propose approval, Chairman. For the reasons stated, quite obvious to me.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Grottick.
Happy to second that, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor McCarthy.
Yes, all I was going to say is we don't get applications from St Anne's all that often, but clearly we've got 2 on the same night, a bit like the number 11 bus, they come along in 2s. No, I mean, this is one of the most active farms on the off-islands, I would say, and it is about the only one, as said, that doesn't have any income coming from the holiday trade, and I think it's right that this application, appropriately cited, should go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So it's been proposed and seconded. All those in favour? It's unanimously approved. Thank you. Item 13, P15029.
Thank you, Chair. This is, I should note from the report, this is an application for the removal of restrictive conditions on a permission that was granted in 1986 that sought to restrict the flats to holiday let use only and allow 1 supervisor flat to be occupied on a permanent basis but for a single person only. Owners of flat 2 have attempted to lift the restrictive condition in the past, but these have been resisted as the reasons for imposing the conditions at that time were still relevant. Officers have considered the application and note that Smuggler's Ride now contains many more flats to the original 13. These additional flats are not restricted, as flat 2 can be occupied for holiday purposes on an all-year-round basis. It is accepted that the permanent occupation would not result in a significant impact either on the infrastructure or the amenity of the area. It is therefore considered that the reason for restricting the flats is no longer relevant, and the removal of the 2 conditions therefore is considered acceptable on flat 2, and the application is recommended for approval.
Thank you. Chairman of Council.
Yeah, I propose this because I think anything we can do to get housing for our residential population we should do, and I can't see why we would put objections in its way, so I will propose it.
Councillor Mumford.
I would just like to say that this actual flat is on the open market at the moment. I have already spoken to Lisa, and I realise that we can't put any restrictions on that it is sold to somebody on the island or rented to someone on the island. But it is actually on the open market at the moment.
Councillor Grottick.
I take your point. On the other hand, whoever lives in there, it does help the viability of businesses in the winter, and I can obviously from personal experience say how very hard it is to keep a shop going in the winter. I know that's not a planning issue, and possibly I shouldn't mention it, but I think it's important.
Okay, Bill, we have a recommendation before us that, as far as I'm aware, has been proposed and seconded. So all those in favour? Councillor McCarthy, can everybody just clearly show all those in favour? Thank you very much. That is unanimously approved. No reports in Part 2, and no reports in Part 3. So that concludes this meeting of the Planning and Development Committee. Thank you all very much.